It began with silence, no bombs, no invasions, just panic. Banks collapsing, markets falling, millions losing everything overnight. It was called the Great Depression, the worst economic collapse in modern history. But how did it happen, and how did one financial crash change the politics and power of the entire world? In this video, we're going to explore the rise, fall, and lasting impact of the Great Depression. Let's begin. It all started in the United States in the late 1920s. The decade after World War I was known as the Roaring Twenties, a time of booming industries, fast cars, and easy credit. The U.S. economy looked unstoppable. The stock market became a symbol of success, and ordinary people began buying shares, often with borrowed money. Everyone believed prices would only rise. But by 1929, that illusion began to crack. On October 29, 1929, remembered as Black Tuesday, the U.S. stock market crashed. Billions of dollars vanished in a single week. Panic spread as banks failed, companies shut down, and unemployment soared. Within months, more than 13 million Americans lost their jobs. The economy shrank by almost a third. It wasn't just a financial crisis. It was a collapse of confidence, and confidence is what keeps economies alive. The crisis quickly spread across the world. America had become the global economic engine after World War I. When it fell, trade, investment, and credit lines across Europe and Asia collapsed too. Countries that depended on U.S. loans, like Germany and Austria, were hit hardest. In Germany, factories closed and unemployment reached record highs. The Weimar Republic, already fragile, began to fall apart. This opened the door for extremist movements, including Adolf Hitler's rise to power in 1933. In Britain, exports fell sharply, leading to massive job losses in industries like coal and steel. In France, political instability grew. Japan, facing economic hardship, turned toward military expansion as a solution, invading Manchuria in 1931. Across the world, governments faced the same question: how to fix a broken system. At first, many tried to protect themselves by raising tariffs and cutting spending, but that only made things worse. Global trade fell by more than 60%. Instead of recovering together, nations turned inward, each trying to survive alone. This collapse of cooperation weakened democracy and gave rise to nationalism, fascism, and military rule in several countries. In the United States, things began to change when Franklin D. Roosevelt took office in 1933. He launched the New Deal, a massive government program to create jobs, reform banks, and restore public trust. For the first time, the U.S. government took responsibility for economic recovery. It didn't fix everything immediately, but it rebuilt hope. Slowly, the economy began to stabilize. By the late 1930s, however, the world was already moving toward another disaster, World War II. The economic pain and political anger created by the Great Depression fueled aggression in Germany, Italy, and Japan. The war that followed would destroy more lives, but ironically, it also ended the Depression as nations ramped up production and military spending. The Great Depression left deep scars. It reshaped how governments manage economies, how people view markets, and how nations interact. It gave birth to modern economic policies, central banks, welfare systems, and financial regulations, all designed to prevent another collapse of that scale. But it also taught a political lesson. When economies fail, democracies become fragile. Desperation can push societies toward extremes, a truth that remains relevant even today. So, what was the Great Depression? It was more than an economic tragedy. It was a turning point that redefined capitalism, reshaped world politics, and reminded humanity that prosperity without balance can collapse overnight.